momentarily in their performance to hearken the sound, and thus the waltzers perforce ceased their evolutions, and there was a brief disconcert of the whole gay company. And while the chimes of the clock yet rang, it was observed that the giddiest grew pale, and the more aged and sedate passed their hands over their brows, as if in confused reverie or meditation. But when the echoes had fully ceased, a light laughter once pervaded the assembly. The musicians looked upon each other and smiled, as if their own nervousness and folly, and made whispering vows to each other that the next chiming of the clock should produce in them no similar emotion. And then, after the lapse of 60 minutes, which the embrace of 3,600 seconds of the time that flies, there came yet another chiming of the clock, and then there was the same disconcert and tremulousness and meditations as before. But in spite of these things, it was a gay, magnificent revel. The tastes of the Duke were peculiar. He had a fine eye for color and effect. He disregarded the decora of mere fashion. His plans were bold and fiery, and his conceptions glowed with a barbaric luster. And there were some who would have thought him mad, but his followers felt that he was not, and it was necessary to hear and see and touch him to make sure that he was not. He had directed, in great part, the movable embellishments of the seven chambers, upon occasion of this great fete, and it was his own guiding taste which had given character to the masqueraders. To be sure, they were grotesque. There was much glare and glitter and piquancy and phantasm, much of what has been seen in Hernani. And there were arabesque figures with unsuited limbs and appointments. There were delirious fancies, such as the madman fashions. There were much of the beautiful, much of the wanton, much of the bizarre, something of the terrible, and not a little of that which might have excited disgust. To and fro in the seven chambers there stalked, in fact, a multitude of dreams, and these, the dreams, writhed in and about, taking hue from the rooms, and causing the wild music of the orchestra to seem as the echo of their steps. And anon there strikes the ebony clock, which stands in the hall of velvet, and then for a moment all is still, and all is silent save the voice of the clock. The dreams are stiff frozen as they stand, but the echoes of the chime die away. They have endured but for an instant, and a light, half-subdued laughter floats after them as they depart. And now again the music swells, and the dreams live and writhe to and fro more merrily than ever, taking hue from the many-tinted windows through which stream the rays from the tripods. But to the chamber which lies most westerly of the seven, there are now none of the maskers who venture, for the night is waning away, and there flows a ruddier light through the blood-colored panes, and the blackness of the sable drapery appalls. And to him whose foot falls upon the sable carpet, there comes from the near clock of ebony a muffled peal, more solemnly emphatic than any which reaches the ears who indulged in the more remote gaieties of the other apartments. But these other apartments were densely crowded, and in them beat feverishly the heart of life, and the revel went whirlingly on, until at length there commenced at the sounding of midnight upon the clock, and then the music ceased, as I have told, and the evolutions of the waltzers were quieted, and there were uneasy sensation of all things as before. But now were 12 strokes to be sounded upon the bell of the clock, and thus it happened, perhaps, that more thought crept, more of the time, into the meditations than the thoughtful among those who revelled. And thus, too, it happened, perhaps, that before the last echoes of the last chime had utterly sunk into silence, there were many individuals in the crowd who had found leisure to become aware of the presence of a masked figure, who had arrested the attention of no single individual before. And the rumor of this new presence, having spread itself whisperingly around, there rose at length from the whole company a buzz or murmur, expressive of disapprobation and surprise, and then finally of terror, of horror, and of disgust.